time it is. Marvin Devine, Huber, Axel, and you know how we do.
Yeah, I got the juice. Big game cool, make them look like cool. Always play it cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing.
Hey, I was jamming over here. Hey, good evening. Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back to Sisters Against Kidney Disease. I am your hostess with the mostest, Audrey Bella Langston, as well as a transplant warrior. Hey, and I am just loving life. I thank you guys so much for being here with me. Shout out to all of my regular viewers, as well as those who might be visiting me for the very first time. I know you're going to always have a ball on my show. Yes, show me some love. Hey, Lisa Baxter, Steve Belcher. Also, let me just say real quick, be sure to pick up our brother Steve's book. He's got a great book out on how to survive dialysis, and you can check out his page, get the exact title, and get that. Thank you. Shout out to my producer, Jared Brown of Warriors Quest, who just put it up on the screen. Yeah, we got to give him some love and support for this book. This book is going to bless a lot of lives. I didn't have anything like that when I was dealing with my dialysis. So let's be sure to get that book. Get it for somebody you love, who you know is going through dialysis. Shout out to those whose birthday is today. Happy birthday. Happy Valentine's Day. Every day should be Valentine's Day for those you love. Remember that, okay? Also, smash, and I mean smash that like button, okay? That share button, guys. We're here on Facebook. We're live right now on YouTube. I know many people do not partake in Facebook, and that's okay, because we're on YouTube live as well. All of our shows are shown on YouTube as well. And I really, really want you guys to really interact with the show. That's why we have the chat box. So questions, comments, Don't be hesitant about that. That's how we also, I know that you're here. And Jared will put it up on the screen for not only myself, but my guests to see. And I pray that there's support here for her tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so excited about my show because of this wonderful guest that I have for tonight. Her name is Christine Wilson. She is 62 years of age, excuse me, and she resides in Maryland, Washington. She is a kidney and pancreas. So we get to hear from someone who's got that pancreas also. Usually it's just kidney transplant, which is good if you only need one organ, but such a blessing when you need two to get both of them, right? So she received her gift of life in May 22 of 1993, very close to when I got diagnosed, which was 1 year later, literally in 94. Christine was diagnosed with diabetes at the tender age of 21, and it ravaged her body. Chris shared with me how she never was able to reach her full career potential. Also, because of being so ill, despite that she believed that the sun still shined, And one thing she said, and I'm going to read this because it's a quote of hers that was just really touching to me. And she stated that it was one of her philosophies. Don't worry about things until you know what to worry about, but make the best decision that you can to address the problem. I thought that was pretty cool and very, very true. Very true. So without further ado, let's bring my guest out and get this wonderful story that she's going to tell us. Welcome, Christine Wilson. Hey, Christine, how are you?
Hey.
Thank you for joining. Hi, thank you so much for joining. You look lovely.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're all very excited to hear your story. Everybody's chiming in saying welcome and happy Monday, and everyone is really glad to see you. And so I'm gonna let's kick this off with you starting your story and sharing with us how your journey with CKD, chronic kidney disease, obviously the diabetes, how that all began.
Yeah. Okay, well, my story actually starts prior to me getting sick, because people that know me know that I'm an identical twin. And my twin sister had kidney failure 5 years before mine was diagnosed. So I went through a lot of things with her, and I went through pretty much the same thing she went through when she was sick and on dialysis. And neither one of us did very well with dialysis. Both of us almost died. But we were blessed to get these kidney transplants. She had a kidney in 1988, and she kept her kidney for 11 years, and then she was on dialysis for 5 more years, and she passed away waiting for another transplant. So, and then my story just really mirrored her story, and I was kind of in denial. I never thought that maybe I would go through the same thing, you know? I don't know what that was about, but I never thought that I would be going through the same thing. And then it did happen to me. We're identical twins. I mean, you know, we're kind of genetic clones, basically. And I guess my problems, the main problem started around 1991. I was still working, and every morning I'd get up and I throw up every morning. They call that morning sickness, and it was a symptom of the kidney disease, the diabetic kidney disease. But I wasn't really aware of that, so I just did that every day. Got up, got ready for work, and went on to work, and didn't think too much about it. But as time went on, I just got sicker and sicker, and I wound up being sick for actually it was a year and 2 days that I was on dialysis, and I was sick for 11 months, every day, all day, just thrown up and sick. And then that last month, things started to straighten out a little bit, and I throw up at least once a day, but usually not more than that. And then I just kind of got used to the routine. I go to dialysis, and I didn't really enjoy it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And this one Friday afternoon, I was still getting myself ready to deal with the transplant, because I had a few more things that I had left on my list to complete, and one of them was going to the dentist. So I'd gone to the dentist Friday, and he had pulled a tooth. It wasn't infected or anything, but he pulled a tooth. And I came home. I knew that I had dialysis the next morning. And then when I was home that evening, he called me. And he was just calling to check in on me. And I was not in a really good mood, because I was thinking about going to dialysis the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of rushed him off the phone. And then a couple seconds later, the phone rang again. And I'm saying, what does this man want with me? Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Well, it was a transplant coordinator telling me that the organs were here for me, and I needed to get ready and make it down to the hospital.
Wow.
Get ready for the transplant, which was going to happen on Saturday, my dialysis day.
Wow.
So then that was the first time, I think, in a whole year that I had just grinned. I was so happy, I didn't even know what to do. I was so happy.
Oh, I'm sure you were. So let me mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. Go ahead, honey.
My sister, she had gone through the same thing, so she was with me when the call came in, and she was the one that kind of took charge and got me together and got me down to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then that night I had a dialysis treatment, my last dialysis treatment, around 3 o'clock in the morning. They had scheduled the surgery for 8 o'clock in the morning. And I remember going down, and my surgeon met me, and they put these nice warm blankets on me, and he patted me on the head, and he said, you got a good kidney. You're going to do very well. So that was pretty much it. Then about eight hours later, I had a new kidney and pancreas.
Wow. So obviously the disease of, well, let me back up a little bit too, because I was interested in a few things that you said out of the starting gate, and I wanted to ask if you knew the disease that you and your sister had, if it was by chance polycystic kidney disease. Did they tell you what the name of your disease was?
Well, they knew it was diabetic kidney failure.
Oh, diabetic kidney failure. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's what, and that was both of you had diabetic kidney failure. Okay.
My sister developed diabetes when we were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember every morning we go to school, and they'd have these soda machines at school, and she just had to have a 7-Up every morning. And I'm thinking, what's with the 7-Up, But we didn't know at the time, but she was headed toward a diabetic coma. And that's basically how they diagnosed her. And then my diagnosis for diabetes was 5 years after that.
Okay. Yeah. Do me a favor, if you can get even a little bit closer to the mic, that'd be great. If you can comfortably do so.
Oh, sure.
T-Mom says, wow, how wonderful. Yeah. So you also said that the dialysis made you and your sister very, very sick. Now, hey, George Franklin. Now, I
Hey,
know
George.
that, welcome. Now, I know that, I know that it makes all of us, like I always say, dialysis does not make you feel great. It just sustains us. Sometimes you will have really good days. I know I had some good days, and a lot of those days were bad days, but you were very explicit on saying how sick it made you. Can you tell us a little, was it something in particular about the dialysis that made you guys sick, or it was just the entire process of it?
Actually, I think the cause of the sickness was the disease, the underlying disease, the
Mm-hmm.
diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
because we both developed diabetic gastroparesis,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's basically when part of your digestive tract gets paralyzed. And so that kind of explained why I was throwing up all the time. I mean, I went down to about 99 pounds.
Wow. What were
And
you, if you don't mind me asking, prior? What was your norm weight, rather?
well, probably about 150, maybe.
Okay, wow, you lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, I was like a skeleton. I could like feel people behind me just shaking their head and saying, "She's not gonna make it. She's
Oh,
not gonna
that's
make it."
terrible. You could
I know,
literally
but
hear them saying that?
I could kind of intuit them saying that. I knew they
Mm,
were. I knew they were looking at me and saying, "Oh God, that poor thing. She's not gonna
mhm.
make it." I was so skinny. I looked like a skeleton
Wow.
and real fragile and frail.
Hmm.
And I spent
Wow.
most of the time I was pretty much bedridden.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I tell people it's kind of hard to explain to people what that kind of sickness is like. But the closest I can kind of come to it is maybe imagine if you had a stomach virus, but you had it for a whole year. You
Mm.
know, all those things that go on with that. I never really knew when it was going to stop or if it was going to
Mhm.
stop. But my sister, she was such a big help to me because she had been through the whole process before. And she encouraged me to go ahead and that I would feel much better after the transplant and all that. And it was true. The only thing
Yeah.
I was a little bit ticked off with her because she was telling me how great it was going to be. And we actually had two different surgeries because I got the pancreas and the kidney, and she just got a kidney. So she had like a little bikini cut. And my cut, I'm split all the way up the middle. And I got out of bed one day and I couldn't even get up. And I said, "Oh my God," I was so angry with her because she told me how great it was going to be. And it wasn't great.
Wow.
It wasn't great yet, but it got great.
Yeah. So you just said you were split up the middle. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming that, well, I mean, were they doing transplants back then laparoscopically? Because my incision
Oh,
is not.
oh, no, no,
No. Okay.
no.
Wow. They came a
Mhm.
long way then when I got mine in 2005.
Yeah, well, see, George is like first generation, and I'm like maybe
Yeah.
second generation.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
back in the old days, they did things differently.
I'm sure. So your recovery time was actually a lot longer, as well as a lot more meds, I'm sure, even back then than there are even now.
Yeah, well, I counted one day. I was on 72 pills a day when I
Whoa,
first got out, and
that's
then
amazing.
they would wean me out. But what happened to me was I was in the hospital for 3 weeks after the transplant, and they finally let me go home. And then they told me I had to come back to the clinic the next day.
Hmm.
Everything was great, and they told me I had to come back the day after that. So I came back on that day, and it just happened to be my birthday. And the nurse told me that I had a fever and that I'd have to stay.
Hmm.
And I was like, no, I can't stay. This is my birthday. I cannot stay in this hospital. I'm not sick. It's just hot out. And she says, no, it's not hot out. You have a temperature and you have to stay. So I was very angry about having to stay in the hospital. I wouldn't even put my gown on. I just sat up in the chair. And there was one of the little nurses who kind of taken a liking to me, and he brought me a little birthday cake with a candle in it.
Oh, that was
And
sweet.
then my sister, she would call like every half hour and sing crappy birthday to me the whole time, which didn't make me feel any better. But
Yeah.
late in the evening, they came by and they told me that I hadn't had a fever all day, so I could go home. And I don't know why, but I said to them, I think I'll just spend the night and I'll go home tomorrow because it was kind of late. And they said, okay. So that night, I got so sick. I was sick. I was going through rejection, and it led to me being hospitalized for another 3 weeks. And they gave me back then they called this drug OKT3. I just know that it had a skull and crossbones on it. It was highly toxic, and most of the transplant recipients know it as shake and bake because it made you have these chills and fever. I had 105-degree fever for about 5 days straight. But I got through that. I got through that and finally was able to come home. And I was out for a little while, and then I had to go back because I had CMV, which I didn't know anything about at the time. But, you know, a lot of things have kind of come up through the years, and I don't really think about it. And I think if they told us all the things that could go wrong with a transplant, I don't think anybody would get one.
Right. But that's true. Go ahead.
Well, the thing about it is all those things aren't going to happen to you. Some of them might. Sometimes people have no problems. It's a kind of a strange thing. I know people who've kind of done everything right and still lost organs, but I know people who've done everything wrong and kept organs. And then I know people all in between. I encourage people to do what they have to do the right thing, to know your body very, very well and know what your body needs and kind of give your body what it needs and follow the doctor's instructions and you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's the thing I used to tell to my patient when I would visit all the transplant patients over at Tampa General, because they always, they would want to know kind of my experience with it, and they would always they couldn't believe that I was never on prednisone and that I was literally only in the hospital 2 days. And in fact, came home on my 43rd birthday. My godson came home that Saturday. We went in Friday for the transplant. He left the next day and I left the next day, which was my birthday. And fortunately, he never went back. And they're like, you're kidding. And I've been in here a week and a half. And I'm like, but everyone's experience is different. Everyone's body's different. Some of those kidneys take a little bit to wake up. Some don't. Just like that doctor. And I do believe that the surgeons know when they connect that kidney right away, if it's going to be a really good one. Because I've heard them, in conversations about that. And that's why you got the pat on the head that you got a good kidney, because I got the same thing. That's what they said. You got an amazing kidney. And obviously yours was as well as mine, because here we are all these years later. However, I try to encourage people who might not have that effect right away. Some of them just take time. That's
true.
All.
That's very true. Another thing I think is so important to not get discouraged and to try to stay positive all the time. Just know that you're going to get through this. I mean, that's what's worked for me. And I've been through a lot of challenges through the years.
So tell us about some of those challenges, Christine, those other challenges, because I know when I was, you sent me a lot of great information. It was a good read, that's for sure. And you were saying that you had so many different things go wrong. Yeah, Dawn was in the hospital 8 days, she said, which to me, some people, it was pretty good. But I did.
Back then, though, things were a lot different, and they've improved so much. Every year they make a lot of improvements in
Yes.
dialysis and transplant. And so back then, like I said, they just did things differently. When I was on the waiting list, the waiting time for a kidney in this area, in the DC metro area, was 1 year. I waited 1 year and 2 days.
Wow.
But
Wow.
now the waiting time is well over 6 years.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
yeah, I personally would not have made it 6 years. So
Yeah. Yes, you would. You would have made it. You would have made
I
it
don't
because you
think
got that.
so.
You would have made it. But here's the difference too. Well, there's a lot of differences. I think people are just in general less healthier, than years ago. I think that there's so much. A lot of that is brought in by technology, and we're not as active and interactive as we used to be. Many people aren't, and with our culture being genetically predisposed to all these things, that doesn't help. You know what I mean? We got to get up and move our butts and our bodies and, I mean, move it all and, work out, eat better. I don't know about you, but when I got mine, and I'm going to get to you on this next, but I'm going to share one thing. I was to not have to take prednisone. I just was very against it because of the major side effects. And I was a young cop. I was a rookie. And I remember saying, is that I didn't know what the name of it was then, but I said, is that drug that blows people up and gives them this big head and face, and they hungry all the time? Because I know that may sound terrible. And the doctor even laughed. Well, yeah, but it'll get better. And I'm like, well, no, it ain't gonna get better because I'm not taking that. I'm a cop. I can't be running down the street after nobody if I'm the Goodyear blimp. No, I'm not taking that. Tell me what I can do in lieu of that. What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to change in my eating habits? And I was in excellent shape and a great eater. And he said, well, just kind of cut back on your red meat. And, that's it. No more red meat for me. No beef, no pork. And he said, you don't have to do that. Just cut down, just cut down. I cut it out. And I still to this day have never touched red meat again. No, never. So we're talking about 18 years now, probably something like that. So yeah, so I was going to ask you if you could share, because that was early on, because one of the things you said triggered this question when you talked about your dental thing, the issue with your tooth. And I thought about what were some of the do's and don'ts that they told you after your transplant?
Well, I was so skinny at the time. They told me just eat whatever you want, just eat.
Yeah.
Well, that was good. I gained like 75 pounds when I was in the hospital, and I needed like the first 40, but the rest of them I didn't need. And I've gained weight since then. I kind of take it off and put it on, but a lot of the reason for that was I was on a really large dose of prednisone back then, and I had one of those old-fashioned surgeons, and because I had a what they call a zero mismatch organ, and the fact that I had a major rejection episode meant that I'm on prednisone for the duration, as long as the transplant lasts. But he had me on a really high dose, and I'd have to go in and kind of beat him up to get him to reduce the dosage. And then I kind of switched over to another nephrologist, and she got me down to 5 milligrams every day. And that's probably pretty much where I'll be.
Okay. Yeah.
Which it's not really that bad.
Okay. So those primary side effects that happen in the beginning, you don't have those issues with it anymore.
No, some of that stuff goes away. And I just wanted to say also, for some of the diabetics that get a pancreas as well, they always ask you, well, are you a diabetic or not? Well, you know, you live in a diabetic body, and it's kind of like with the transplant, they tell you there's no cure for it. This transplant is just a treatment. Well, the same goes for a pancreas. It's a treatment, and it can work, and it can work for a long time, or it may not work forever. You know, just kind of depends. But but you can. It's just that everybody's different, and a lot of the things that are caused by the diabetes, like I've had a lot of eye surgeries and had all kinds of eye problems, but some of the stuff has been reversed with the transplant.
That was going to be my next question.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so when you get a pancreas,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're diabetic, does that new pancreas cure you from the diabetes? And were you a type 1 insulin dependent diabetic? Tell us about that.
I think that's kind of a matter of opinion, but I know that since I developed diabetes young, they've always considered me type 1, but I don't think I'm a type 1. I'm a type 2 diabetic.
Okay.
Yeah. And the things that have gone away, my eyesight, one eye I'm pretty much blind in. The other eye, I have about 20/30 vision, which is really good. They corrected.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because when I was on dialysis, that good eye was like 20/80. So I was pretty much blind on dialysis. So
Mhm.
that's gotten a lot better. Some
Mhm.
of the neuropathy and stuff has cleared up and gotten better.
Mm.
Uh, the gastroparesis has gotten better. It still affects me from time to time, but for the most part, I'm not suffering and I'm not throwing up all day and all that kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So did they tell you things like, so now that dental thing situation, I was wondering if they told you back then, like I know there were so many do's and don'ts when I was transplanted in 2005, such as I had two beautiful Himalayan cats that I had to get
Hmm.
rid of because I couldn't
Hmm.
be around cats anymore. That was hurtful. My cats were gorgeous. Fortunately, I
Mm.
found good homes for them, but I was like, why? They're just cats. So they explained because of the feces and, the interaction possibly with the meds and okay. And so, whenever I needed dental work, I
Hmm.
had to be given an antibiotic prior to this day. When I go for dental work, I still about an hour before pop a few amoxicillin,
Yeah, I get
mandatory.
pre-treated for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they
Definitely.
said that. No, those are really no more my favorite grapefruit. I loved grapefruit, especially ruby red.
Oh,
That hurt
of
my heart.
all of all the things I missed, I really missed grapefruit.
No,
I
those of us.
love those ruby reds.
I was like, no, why? They said, no, you will definitely have some interaction. I remember one time I was gonna test it, and hey, the Lord said, the Lord says, what? Don't put me to the test. So I did it, but I missed my ruby red grapefruits and grapefruit juice.
Oh,
Those
I
are
did
the only
too.
ones I remember. Was there anything that they told you about other than what I just shared?
You know, back then they didn't know all that because the grapefruit thing came about after I was transplanted for a while. And because I remember after I had the transplant and they bring me breakfast and they brought grapefruits and I ate it. So,
Right. George
so
said,
I
why did
don't
you have
know.
to start talking about grapefruits? Because we all love them. Those of us that love them, that's for
Oh,
sure.
I know.
Yeah, but it's just so different now. Hey, Jerry, are there any questions up there? I plan to be off 10 milligrams not long after my transplant 6 years ago in April. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so you were a part, you played a nice big role in the transplant games. Tell us all about that. You and George, the athletes.
Well, I'm not really an athlete. I used to be as a teenager and all, but not as an adult. And after I got sick and whatnot, I just not in good shape at all. But I went anyway to the transplant games in '96 out in Salt Lake City. George and I and a bunch of our other teammates went, and I remember leaving the airport in Baltimore, and I was behind a recipient, a transplant recipient, and we were talking, and his little finger was cut off, and
Mm.
the whole finger wasn't, but it was cut like the first maybe quarter of an inch of it or so was cut
Mm-hmm.
off. And I asked him what happened, and he told me that he had gotten a yeast infection and had to have it amputated.
Oh, a
And
guy?
that yeah, a guy, he got a yeast infection in his finger, in his
Oh,
skin, and wound up having to have a partial amputation. So
wow.
that kind of frightened me about that. So I that happened early on, so I knew you got to take care of yourself. You know, when you see these things happening, address it right away. Because my philosophy is that everything's related to my transplant. I don't care if it's my big toe or my fingernails or anything.
Well, it
It's all
really is.
related. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It really is because that's the thing about us. Yes, we're thank God we're not on dialysis anymore, but we are, as I call us, special.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
everything we do should be pretty much, as far as what we're consuming,
Mhm.
should be well thought out. Are you sure? Like, for instance, like herbal things. People, because I'm into health, they always want to. They suggest a lot of times really cool things that they've stumbled upon, and they'll be like, "Oh, Bella, you should check this out. This would be so good for your da 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 inflammation." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I got to run that past my nephrologist first." No, it's healthy. For us. We got to
I
run it
know.
past the nephrologist, right?
Well, you said a mouthful there, and people have good intentions, but
Yeah,
we know what the road is paved with good intentions, but
yeah.
they don't really understand. And I have to tell them, we kind of walk a tightrope. We can't let anything get too out of balance. And I said, I'm taking all this medication to suppress my immune system, and all of the real healthy things kind of increase your immune system. And it's a tightrope. You have to keep a balance,
Yeah.
and you really do have to do a lot of research and checking, and ask your doctor about taking certain medications and certain herbs along with them and all that sort of thing, because
Mm-hmm.
everything has side effects and interactions, and we none of us know everything about that. So, but I
That's
do know that there was a time when I took a little too much vitamin C and kind of
right.
threw myself into a mini rejection. I knew what to do to get out of it, so I didn't develop full-fledged rejection. But I mean, things as simple as that. You think, well, vitamin C it couldn't hurt you, but
Yeah.
yeah, it
So
did.
how long? There's a question down at the bottom from George. How long have you had your kidney pancreas transplant?
Um, George, now I know you know this. Mm.
No. He's got
Hey,
jokes. Maybe he
but
wants
thank, but
everybody else to know. I was gonna, tell you
I
to
was,
let everybody.
yeah, I was gonna say thank you for asking, George. On May 22nd, I will be 28 years out with a kidney and pancreas.
Yay. So you and George on my show so far are the longest post transplant. And I
Oh,
am so
really?
happy about that. Yeah, so
Well,
far. Yeah, on my
you'll have
show.
you'll have to interview the rest of the quarter century club.
I'd love to. I would love to. I mean, I just think that's it. That should give all of us hope, and again, it just defies oftentimes what medical technology says, and they're just going by textbook, that's all. But it just goes to show, again, God is in control. He has the final say on that,
Hmm.
and it also says to me too that people who are further out, I would have to believe, I know I do, take good care of themselves or do their best to.
I think so. I think it's just important to know your body and know what you can get away with and what you can't.
Mm-hmm.
We're
73
all
years
different.
between both of you guys. Yeah, that's really
Oh wow,
that's
you're making me feel old now.
Barb said, great job, Christine. Yes, quarter century club.
Hey Barb.
A lot of comments have been up there. We've been doing such an amazing job sharing. I haven't gotten a chance to start reading all of them yet. So Jared will be popping those up there. So what tell one thing I wanted to ask you is to share what is an average day like now at this point in time in your life. It's a two-part question actually. And if you were going to share some of the post-transplant things that you may be experiencing now, obviously that you weren't many years ago, because the gradual changes do generally come with us all. The further out we get, little things come up. If you understood what I'm asking in that question.
Well, I have to start with the last part of that question because
Mhm.
what comes to mind for me now is occasionally I have flare-ups of gout, and that's pretty common among us
That's
recipients.
popular. Hmm.
And we can have it's not like a typical gout. It's called non-specific gout because it can attack any part of our body.
And
And
for
a
those
lot
that may not know, sweetheart, would you tell them what gout is?
Well, gout is a form of arthritis, and it's caused by too much uric acid, and the crystals will settle down in your joints, and they swell up and get hot, and you can barely move. The first time I think I had it, I didn't know I had it until I went to get out of the bed, and I put my foot on the floor, and my God, I was just in excruciating pain. It's
Yeah.
very, very, very painful, and you have to. They have some medications that are good for us, but you have to get the right combination of
Hmm.
meds because we all take different immunosuppressants, and a lot of those drugs that attack gout will also have interactions with our immune suppressants.
Hmm. So how do you know, how do you differentiate gout as opposed to, let's say, just an arthritic type pain, or you know what I mean? So how would somebody
Yeah.
really, yeah, know it's gout?
Well, I have other forms of arthritis as well, but gout is something it's just a different kind of a pain, and you know when you got gout. It it,
Okay.
it won't it won't let you ignore it at all.
Okay.
It's very, very painful.
Had them type of pains. Yeah, yeah. So that's something that's popular with recipients. I do hear about that pretty often, you
Yeah,
know.
they have
Yeah.
cherry juice works very well for me, and celery seed and pineapple, fresh pineapple and with shredded ginger. All those things work pretty well for me for uric acid.
Okay, okay. That's a good combo. So that was pineapple and what else?
Cherry juice
Oh, cherry
and
juice.
yeah,
Okay.
cherry juice and celery seed.
Celery
And it
seeds.
yeah, and any part of the celery is really good for gout.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. I'm a big celery eater. I'm also a fan of turmeric for
Oh
inflammation
yes,
because I juice.
inflammation.
Yeah, yeah. Gout
Very
tends
good.
to come along with swelling and redness. Arthritis normally does not have any. Okay, thank you for sharing that, George. Okay, yeah. So that makes a big difference then. So that, yeah, if you're swelling and you got a lot of redness going on. Yeah. So what is your day like? I mean, what are you doing in your life right now? Are you doing anything in particular?
Well, my life has changed quite a bit over the years, and
Thank you, Barbara.
I lost my twin in 2003, and then a couple of years after that, I lost my dad. So once they got sick, I had to kind of cut back on the transplant things and exterior things to pay attention to my family and their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister had two. They were little boys. Now they're grown men, but she had two little ones. So between me and my mom, we took care of them because my sister was sick a lot in her life, in her adult life, and after she had the kids, and so we would have to take care of them
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my time is devoted to family and taking care of my one of my nephews lives with us with
Mm-hmm.
me and my mom just started dialysis. She's 91 years old and
Wow. My gosh. How's
and
she
she just
doing? When
actually
did she
she
get diagnosed with kidney failure?
well, her nephrologist has been watching her for I'd say a good 10 years now at least,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't want her to have to go on dialysis until absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So she had an appointment on January 2nd of 2020 last year, and I took her in, and the doctor sent us straight to the emergency room, and she started dialysis like a day later after they put
Wow.
access in. Mhm.
Wow.
So
She's a soldier.
she's actually doing much better than both of me and my sister did on dialysis, but she's having some problems that are outside of dialysis that are causing trouble.
I
So,
still applaud at her at 91 years of age. I think if you make it to that age, I mean, you come down with something, it's just like, but what a, and she's doing well getting through it. What a great life. I mean,
she is.
just
I mean, she's had a really sunny disposition. She's very youthful. You look at her and think she was maybe in her 70s,
oh wow, that's so awesome.
and she has a youthful attitude, and
Hmm.
she's very active, and she enjoys doing things. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
I think that's really kind of what keeps her going. She's been a good and faithful servant to all
yes.
of us through all these years, and she's seen a lot of illness. She's had a few things, and between me and my sister and my dad, we I think we own a section of the hospital center, the Washington Hospital Center. There's a
Is that
wing on there that belongs to our family because we've been good patrons all these
oh,
years.
well, I'm sure they love you guys. I mean, obviously this is a genetic thing, obviously,
Yeah.
and so everybody's chiming in talking about what a great mom you have, George, and oh, and by the way, T Mom said that you're a great cook. uh yeah, Lisa has that in her family too, the kidney disease. Yeah, she's a great cook, huh? So what are your specialties, Christine?
Uh,
Everything.
everything.
Oh wow, that is just great. That is so good, so good. Yeah. And so how often do you get to I'm sorry, did you say she resides with you?
Actually, I reside with her.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah.
You reside with her. Okay, that's good. You guys are together. That's good.
Yeah,
I didn't
we're very, very close. We've always been close.
know.
My
Hmm.
mother she had 4 kids in 3 years, so you do the math on that one.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not. No, I'm gonna leave that alone. That's mom's business. I'm
So
not getting.
yeah, we're a very, very close family, and that's another thing I think that's so important to us as recipients is some kind of a support system.
Oh yeah.
Like I have family and friends, and some people don't, and you really do need that. I have
Absolutely.
I have another friend who's a liver recipient, and he got transplanted like at the really literally the 11th hour, and they didn't think he was going to make it, and the social workers didn't even want to list him because he didn't have any family in the area.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you
You
know,
do
but
need that.
he still has his liver, and it's 25 years later. So
Wow, that's awesome. And see, what that makes me think about, and I was going to lead into this question next. like you said, about the importance of family and family support, and the fact that everyone does not have that. I've met so many who I've visited in the hospital as recipients and as potentials recipients, all kind of stuff, and a lot of them didn't, and I could tell that was having a big effect on their psyche, and so it makes me think about all the thousands and thousands of people that have succumbed to COVID in the hospital and died. I can't help but feel like a big part of their demise was because none of their loved ones could be around them. That is our support, whether you're conscious or unconscious,
Yeah, the isolation is just really hard on you. I
Yeah.
know there have been times when I've had to send my mom in an ambulance in the middle of the night, and I can't go with her, and that just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm supposed to
Do
be there,
that.
but with this
Yeah.
COVID,
Mhm.
I can't. They won't
Oh,
let me.
yeah.
They
Mm-hmm.
won't let me in there.
They won't let you. By the way, and so that was the part of the question that led into that. What are your thoughts on the vaccine? Have you had it? Will you be getting it? Is your mom going? What are your thoughts about it?
Well,
Bless you, Roberta. Mm-hmm.
hey Roberta, I haven't I haven't gotten one yet. I'm in the process of getting listed. It's around in this area. It's such a jurisdictional thing,
Mm,
and so I live in Maryland, so I have to go by the rules and the laws in Maryland and my county, and they're not quite doing people in my group just yet. They're still working on the 75 and over group and whatnot.
oh,
Now, my
so
mom she's supposed to get one at dialysis, but the hospital, she goes to an outpatient unit, but it's in a hospital, and they had 3,000 doses that they'd given to their employees,
mm,
and so they haven't kind of restocked just yet, so they're still waiting on that. But I'm
yeah.
planning on getting one as soon as I can, as soon as I can
Mm,
get on the list and all that. Yeah, I'm planning to get one.
right. Well, and it seems as though all states are kind of doing this differently because also those who are caring, such as, for instance, we'll use your mom with her age, and she is definitely or should be a priority,
Hmm.
but you're technically her caregiver too. So here they give them, in a few other states that I know, my home state of Chicago, Illinois, they give them to the caregivers as well. If it's an in-home, well, caregiver or especially in-home,
Uh-huh.
caregivers. It's just kind of crazy, like how this is going, and it's different here and this way there, and it's just weird.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult. I get frustrated because the first time I checked into it, they said, "Well, we don't have any more appointments left. Call back next Thursday at 4 o'clock." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, right." So
Yeah.
it's a little discouraging, but you just got to kind of stick with it. And I know eventually I'll be getting one. And in the meantime, I trying to stay as safe as possible. I wear my mask. I wash my hands. I wear gloves. I do
Right.
all the things. I social distance, but I'm the one who does the shopping and the pharmacy runs and whatever else needs to be taken care of. And I have to go to the doctors for me and for my mom and for my nephew. So I'm kind of busy all the time.
That's good. I mean, that you are still, keeping busy, and I know it's going to come up when it's time. But you're doing all the right stuff for now to, take care of yourself and your household, and hope prayerfully everybody's doing that. I mean, and even the thing is even after everyone is vaccinated, we still can't get laxy daisy on
That's true.
wearing our mask and
Hmm.
maintaining our 6-7 foot distancing. That's really critical too, because that's a kind of fear of mine too. Everybody who does get is going to think, oh, thank you God, the mask thing is gone, let's burn them. And
Yeah.
that is not the case, because we got this new strand, and for
No,
those that believe in it.
I think we're going to be living with this for a while, for a long time, maybe forever, you know.
Yep.
But and there are other things out there, so we have to learn to have some discipline and do what we're supposed to do. I think if we
Right.
had done what we were supposed to do early on, I don't think we'd be dealing with these spikes that we're seeing now. But you know, what can you
Mhm.
say? If a lot of
Yeah.
people,
Stay busy
they
while
just
we, yeah, for a transplant, do your home. Yeah, exactly. Do your research. And that's really important. Yeah. For your overall health. I think people too, I find that people who research what they're dealing with do a lot better. Oh, Dawn said she got her first one and her second one is in 10 days. We got to just do what we need to do. Even if you do the right things, you can still get COVID. That's true. But
well,
better than,
that's very true.
yep.
And I think that's where faith comes in. I have a very strong faith, and I
Yeah.
know that if it does happen to me, then God meant it to happen to me, and I just have to deal with it. Like I said, I can't worry about those things. I just have to make the best decision that I can when I know what I'm facing. So,
That's right. That's right. True. True.
and
So
I'm not trying to draw that to myself either. So I don't like to think in negative terms, because I think sometimes we can get obsessed with things and just kind of draw negativity to us.
right. Yeah, that's true. That's so true. And oh, Team Mom, good point made. Caregivers should, yeah, caregivers have a right to the vaccine too. I mean, they're subjecting themselves to getting potentially sick.
Sure.
Uh, oh, okay, yeah. Western Maryland is still 75 and over. Yeah, so
Hmm.
everybody's different. So we are fighters, yes. What's your favorite inspirational quote? I know you have one, Christine. And who is it that said it, or did you say it?
Not to brag, no. No, I'm really big on quotes. One of the ones that's my favorite is Harriet Tubman quote, and I'm
Mm.
gonna have to paraphrase this, but she said, if I could only convince them that they were slaves, I could free a whole lot more of them. So
Wow.
that's one of my favorites.
Deep. That's deep. Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Yes, indeed. Way to survive. Yeah, Don's a survivor of COVID. I'm so glad you're okay, Don. Wow. I
Oh,
mean,
me too.
yeah, that's just oh, and she's a
That
recipient. She's such a sweetheart, and wow. I mean,
that
because
that's just
mm-hmm,
fantastic. That's very encouraging.
mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
see on some of our support group lists that there's some of us who do survive it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's not total doom and gloom. I mean, and prayerfully, everyone is not looking at it that way. George said that they lost two recipients in Cumberland because of COVID. We already know that we're at greater risk because of our
exactly.
suppressed immune systems.
Yeah,
So that's why we have to pump up the volume with our protection. With that, and that's all we can do. Everything
that's
else is up
right.
to God.
That's
Everything else
right.
is up to God.
I
Okay.
guess I guess another it's not a quote, but the serenity prayer. I love that
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many things that you cannot control, and you have to let that go and just work on the things that you do have control over.
And for those who aren't aware, that prayer says, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, but have the courage
Good.
to change the things that I can. And most importantly, the wisdom to know the
Know
difference
the difference.
between
Absolutely.
them. I love that as well. That is one of my favorites too. And
Mhm.
so we're almost up to our hour, sweetheart. So you have just been amazing. But my last question for you is just to ask you to briefly just what if, based on what you've been through and to the point to which you are now in your life, as far as your transplant life, what is the best advice that, and you've been given some great advice already, but what is the best advice that you would give to those who are waiting, who are either who are waiting on a kidney, or who have one? Either, it's your choice, whatever you want to share.
Well, I think overall it's just that to try and stay positive, to develop your faith and just know things. There are things that I just know. It's like when all the people were shaking their heads behind me and thinking I wasn't going to make it. They had no clue that I had no intention of dying then, and that I was going to make. I didn't even think about dying, even though as sick as I was, and I was dying, but I just never thought of it in that way. I just
Mhm.
always knew that something would happen, and I think the toward the end I kind of let go of it a lot more, and that's when things started to happen for me. That's
Mhm.
when I that's when I got the call, because I was thinking, well, I may be on dialysis for another year, or you just never know how long you're going to be on it. So I was kind of making peace with that. And then the next thing you know, I'm getting this call and I'm going to the hospital and having the surgery and then coming out of it, and the rest is kind of history.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Yeah,
But
that's just. Mhm. Go ahead.
there's there's something else that I kind of like to suggest for transplant recipients.
Sure, go
I,
ahead.
I think that every transplant recipient should go to the transplant games at least one time.
George said
And
that too. He couldn't believe I had never gone.
well, the U.S. transplant games, and they happen on the even years. Every 2 years they have it, and they have them all over the country in different places. And you can kind of go online and find out about it. But it was really the one time I went to the game, and I can't wait to go back again. But I had such a blast. It
Mm,
was the most wonderful experience. We had
mm.
we had great fun. George was there, and we had a few other people that we kind of hung out with, and we just had a ball. Everything, it was fun.
I am definitely planning. I think we should all go as a group when
And
there's
oh,
you
absolutely.
when it's safe. I would just love that. I gotta go now. I gotta go because I could kick myself for never having gone, especially when I was in more of my athletic mode. I could have had maybe 2 medals, unlike some people with 45 or 46 medals. I ain't gonna call no names, but
No,
he is.
I
But yeah, that's okay though, because I am one of those people that's just about the ambiance too. The
well,
energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can go, and that's what I wasn't an athlete. I was in really bad shape. I had a bum hip that was bothering me. I entered into a race. I don't was it 1K or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
Anyway, I limped in last, and I had two friends. One friend from DC and his best friend from where is he from? The West Coast, from Washington State, I believe. And they
Mhm.
walked the whole track with me and encouraged me to keep going, keep going, keep going, which I
Mhm.
thought was so wonderful. It was
Yeah, you
just,
did it. It doesn't matter. Mhm.
you form all these memories that you just never will forget.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the best things about it was I'd never been in that big of a crowd with all of these other people that had something like that in common with me.
Mhm.
Everybody, everywhere you look, there's recipients, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then donor families have been included too. And I never got a chance to know my donor at all. I know
Mhm.
a little bit about the donor, but back in those days, they didn't really want you communicating with your donor.
Yeah. Mhm.
But
Yeah.
now, whenever I see a donor family, donor mom or dad or sister or whatever, I just want to hug them and say thank
Right.
you.
Absolutely. I mean, wow. And you know what? On that note, I thank you again so much, my dear friend. One of the reasons I love my show too is because of, and I'm sure my fellow sisters and brothers who have shows here on Urban Media, we meet so many awesome people, and it's just so heartwarming and endearing to know that we are all connected. You know, we are all connected through the world of kidneys. I'm sorry, Bella, so that you'll know, Christine's cousin is Russell Wilson. Ooh, the quarterback for the Seahawks. Is he married?
Yeah. Yeah, he's married.
Darn it.
He's he's married to Sierra.
Huh?
He's married to Sierra.
That's right. See, I don't keep up with football like that. I like it a little bit, but I'm not that hound, like, okay, well, honey, that's a fabulous young lady, Sierra. I love her. But I always leave a scripture with each of my guests, and I choose one that I feel God leads me to based on the spirit of the person that I am interviewing, and everything they've been through. And so the scripture that I was led to for you, Christine, was under, and I'm sure you've heard it, under Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication and with thanksgiving, make your request made known to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and mind through Christ Jesus. I know that was your mantra.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to us staying connected. I look forward to us attending the games together. Yes, George, which surpasses all understanding. We can't imagine it. We can't figure it out. That's what that means. So, yeah, thank you, Sister Lisa Baxter of the Lisa Baxter Show. T-Mom, and you had some great supporters on here, so that was wonderful. And my sister, I want to bid you farewell and have a wonderful night. God bless you and your lovely mom, and I pray that the Lord continues to keep her encouraged while she's dealing with her dialysis.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Much love to you. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too.
Well, wow. Isn't she a wonderful lady? She is just the sweetest person, and such an amazing story of courage and strength and endurance. And now she's taking care of her mom, who's on dialysis. But God has just truly blessed their family. Nevertheless, I mean, I love her. I love that family, and I love this family, you guys. And I want to thank you guys again for being here with me and supporting Sisters Against Kidney Disease. Also, it's not too late to smash the share button. I mean, I just know that this story will bless a lot of lives, as do our other stories. So I just want to thank you guys. I want you to stay uplifted. I want you to stay encouraged. I want to see everybody get the vaccine. I know a lot of people are apprehensive, but this is where faith kicks in. And that's exactly, again, what Christine was sharing, because it's true. We've got to get to some herd immunity here. I love you too, George. And I love all of you guys. Thank you, Patricia. Love you too. And so be well, be encouraged, and be, most importantly, safe. Wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. Jesus loves you, and so do I. And there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. Have a great night. Thanks, Jared.